Good
Good morning.
morning. I no longer match my profile picture.
Oh, because you have braces now,
Yeah.
as of yesterday. You can
Mhm.
barely see them though.
That's good.
That's nice.
My mouth is very sore.
Oh,
That's okay.
your face looks cute.
I forgot to spray it, but thank you. You know what? I do like how my cheeks sit up higher now and the
Oh,
way
because of
they're
the
sore.
braces.
Yeah, like it gives my face more dimension, but I just don't like the pain that I'm in right now.
It'll wear off like a month.
Thank you for your vote of confidence. Well, welcome to today, February 7th. Friday, February 7th, 2025, where Stephanie and myself, Julesy, we bring you the live news on our Politics Popped YouTube and Twitch stream. News with levity. We've made it a whole month of doing three
We have,
times a week. And we are going to be moving in next week to keep it sustainable because I am in grad school.
and we do both have an entire other channel.
And
We
I
also
have I
subscribe
have a
to
child. I'm a mother, a graduate student,
a mother.
a mother. I got a Patreon. I got a YouTube. We got to be able to like not burn ourselves out doing this. And with what I think is going to be the going forward trend, especially because Elon Musk is having wonton power over the federal government. That
Oh, I'm echoing. It says.
okay, I will.
Sorry.
Okay, I said it.
Thank
I
you,
said I was
Snowman.
gonna have to do it. We got one.
Sorry.
We got through one. It's okay.
Look, we caught it early in the stream.
Okay. Yes. So I think a lot of the news cycle is going to happen over the weekends going forward. I think
I agree.
Elon's what is it? His what would you call it? Like a way a person consistently behaves. His roadmap is to do all the damage through the federal courts or through the court system and doing it over the weekend to
I
essentially
think so.
dismantle the federal government.
He's
So
a weekend worker because, this is a man that is very familiar with mergers and acquisitions. It's fascinating to me that people always title him self made, which is untrue. He comes from a very wealthy South African, white South African family. That's where he got his money from. But he actually got his like stamp of approval in tech because he owned a startup that it wasn't particularly spectacular, the startup, but a competing larger company did not want the competition, and in what could be viewed as a violation of antitrust laws, essentially bought his first startup for, I believe, it was like $20 million. And he essentially used that money, invested that money, and then proceeded to go and acquire other companies. Tesla, he acquired. He's not the founder of Tesla. X, he acquired when it was Twitter from
Twitter,
Jack
yeah.
Dorsey. SpaceX, same. He hasn't founded from the ground up any of these companies. So he very much runs, I would say, like a very high brow, high game M&A acquisition, very aggressive, like that. He's running it like how he runs these businesses, which is terrifying and fascinating.
And I definitely believe he's doing what he's doing because there's a large payout coming his way. But we will get into that later in the episode because it's Black History Month. Happy Black History
I
Month,
love
y'all. It's the
More
Black of the
Black History
Black
Month.
History Month, and it might be the last of them from a federally recognized level. I don't know. I'm kind of ambivalent about like Juneteenth no longer being a federal holiday and that Black History Month might not be federally recognized anymore because Trump is on a mission to put to firmly embed Christian nationalism, white Christian nationalism, into our federal government. You know, the commodification of a very black middle class history for the benefit of corporations and institutional powers.
I think it slid from what it originally was for because it was first a week to, remind people like, hey, this is not only Black history, is American history. Like this is American, like this is how the damn place was founded, which is needed and helpful. And then of course, corporate interest ruins everything. The same way they ruined Juneteenth and they were selling like Juneteenth flavor ice cream at Walmart. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Um, And it's interesting because Trump put out, with like all the pushback, he put out a statement. You know, he loves to sign paperwork. He put out a statement last week saying, "Oh, and now we will be recognizing Black History Month," as if he created the month, which is just wild. Like everything is just farce and nonsense with him.
Uh, 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 just nasty, nasty work. And yes, thank you, Beth, for the reminder. Everyone who is watching this live, whether on YouTube or Twitch, like the live. And if you're watching the playback, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us to get monetized so that we're not just doing this as a volunteer.
Yes.
A volunteer project. Well, let's get into the first news headline.
We're starting with some good Black History news.
Yes, happy Black History Month to my Black of the Black. Is it only 4 Black grandparents Black History Month? Do you qualify, Stephanie?
You know what? I do laugh, like, because at this time it's always funny. Well, people will put like the reels and the TikToks, and they'll be like, "Hiding my family in my biracial sibling," and it always makes me giggle when people just like giggle at it. So
answer the question though. You got 4 Black grandparents.
Me, Stephanie, huh? Both of my parents are Black. You know what? Now is a good time to focus.
Not you deflected!
In this country to focus on celebrating Black American history.
Is it one? Do you have one European grandparent?
No, none of them are European, and that is always my point of contention. I'm like, listen, as a Jamaican person,
they're Chinese.
Jamaica, one is Chinese, and the other one is half Black Jewish, Syrian Jew, and the other and half Indian. My own grandma.
Oh.
And then my grandpa.
Okay, Giselle Bryant, you multicultural. Generationally
but both of my
multicultural.
Black, yeah. I would never deny them.
Well, happy African American History Month.
Happy Black History Month to y'all.
Let's get Black
We're
American.
focusing on Black American history during Black History Month.
At least we could keep it light. It's okay.
Literally.
Oh, no! I didn't mean it that way. No house cat behavior over here. I'm sorry.
There's no house cat behavior over here.
I'm gonna spray my face down while Stephanie gives you the news on this one because
yes. So, a historic DC Black church now owns the Proud Boys name and specifically their trademark. So, Metropolitan African American Methodist, AME is more so like what people are familiar with, like these churches as AME churches, Episcopal Church, can seize money from the far right group and any money they make for selling merchandise. So essentially what happened is these rough and ready, trifling set of white supremacists, they decided they were going to conduct vandalism against the AME church a few years ago, and they burned a Black Lives Matter sign. And because they are lawless, the Proud Boys did not show up to court. And even though they were supposed to be paying a fine and restitution to the AME church, they refused to do that. So the judge awarded the trademark from the Proud Boys to the church. So now if they decide to sell any racist merchandise, not only do they have to ask the AME church for permission, they also will have to pay the proceeds to the AME church. So, I think that's a win for Black History Month.
Shout out to our court system that is completely in shambles right now, doing something right at least once. That is great news for the AME church. Now let's get into the 2025 Met Gala. Is it Gala or Gala?
I always say Met Gala. Tomato. Cucumber, cucumba.
Nobody says cucumber different.
My whole life, my grandparents in Pato say cucumba. So I thought it was a whole different vegetable until I realized I was like, oh, this is just accent. Thick. I love that for them.
It's telling me to get digital access again and again and again.
Oh, okay. It's not letting you?
No.
This I thought would be fun.
You read your last complimentary story. This is my first time clicking on Vogue.
I was like, are you reading through Vogue often?
No, I don't, actually.
Oh. Well, we can do a quick summary. This was just more fun frivolity for what it's worth. The Met Gala theme this year is the Black Dandy and Black Dandyism, which is a specific style of dress embodied, I believe it is the late 1800s to the 1920s by Black men in how they specifically adorned themselves in these very beautiful fitted suits and then had, I would say, a lot more extra pizzazz and flavor that was lacking from their counterparts. So that is going to be the theme of the Met Gala. We should all be concerned about whether or not people can pull off this theme without wearing blackface, but putting that one concern aside, I do think that this will hopefully be a way to encapsulate more Black history in the Met Museum. So the way the Met Gala always works, the Met Gala is supposed to be a fundraising event for the Metropolitan Museum of Arts, which is a beautiful museum here in New York. It is free if you are a New Yorker or you know somebody with a New York City ID. You do not have to pay. You can give gratuity if you'd like. So you can go. It's a lot of great stolen artifacts in there. And this one specifically will be focusing on Black fashion, Black history. Think Dapper Dan. It's going to be focusing, I would say, to make it also current as well. And oftentimes a lot of Black American fashion is co-opted and stolen without any type of recognition. So I was glad to see that the recognition is going to be there. And I'm super excited to more so see, we'll see if the celebs do any good fashions. For them to have all that money, sometimes they're a little dry.
Yeah, and they're basing this year's theme on Monica L. Miller's 2009 book Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism, and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi this morning or if it's Barnard's. A lot of servers are down today. I'm like trying to pull up her profile.
Oh, it's Musk. Musk
Because her name sounds familiar, and I was wondering if there was another book that I've read, if it was by her.
While you look it up, I will read this quote from her. Dandyism can seem frivolous, but it often poses a challenge to or a transcendence of social and cultural hierarchies, Miller said in today's statement. It asks questions about identity, representation, and mobility in relations to race, class, gender, sexuality, and power. The exhibition explores dandyism in both a pronouncement and a provocation. And I like that we're going to see the diaspora displayed. So we should hopefully be seeing the Congolese, I think it's Safars is how you pronounce it, which are the beautiful Sapphic women of the Congo. And they have a very specific way of dress in the offshoot of dandyism. Excellent tailoring, great pattern making. It's like one of my favorite forms of fashion.
I'm sure at least the museum exhibit will be good. I know pop culture and the media fixates on the gala itself, but and the exhibit usually goes on tour because I was living in Dallas. I was able to see the one where Rihanna was dressed like an omelet, the Chinese.
Well, China through Looking Glass.
Yeah,
I bought the book for that one.
I saw it in. Wait, did I? No, I definitely saw that outside of.
First of all,
New
pause
York.
and reflect. Not an omelet.
That's what I remember all the memes.
That's a great dress.
It was a good dress, but I remember seeing the exhibit in like Dallas, like riding my bike down to the Dallas Arts District and seeing the exhibit.
I'm excited to see what the exhibit is.
Oh, my tea has.
Particularly, Brooklyn Museum had a great exhibit last year that I went a couple times to see it, and it was called African Fashion. And it showed all of like the different diaspora fashion. And then particularly it showed how fashion correlated with like the rise of independence throughout the continent. And so like that was really beautiful to see. So I'm excited to see the exhibit. I think the Met Gala part, I'm like, we'll see. The co-chairs and the committee was very interesting. I was happy to see that Tiana Taylor is on the committee. They should have made her a co-chair, in my opinion. Janelle Monáe is also on the committee. Janelle Monáe, I think her previous style embodies a lot of dandyism. So excited to see that. There are some other people on there where I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. But it should be very, very fascinating to see. And I think particularly one of the tie-ins now is that you can have resistance, like joy as resistance, which is something that you hear sometimes people saying in collection with other forms of resistance in the day and age that predominantly it was men doing this, and predominantly it was men from different, I would say, like different sexualities on the spectrum of sexuality, and it was kind of in protest to being put in this box that cisgender, racist, white supremacist, patriarchy puts everybody in. So I think watching everybody and the ability to transgress will be a beautiful thing to see if people actually do it. So I hope so. Some celebs really should stay home because the purpose of you is entertainment. So I would like to see some extraness. I would like to be entertained. Oh, I can't hear you.
I muted myself because I was looking something up and the sound would play. Yeah, so now to veer back into political news.
The frivolity is done so fast.
I mean, I'm excited to see the Met Gala. I'm excited to. I mean, it's just like looking at pretty outfits. I don't live
Don't
in
you
New
want
York.
some joy in your life for 5 seconds?
You know, I'll go down to the bar and have a half dozen oysters, and that'll be the joy.
That is a bit more
I think
tangible.
I'm gonna try to do that tonight, actually. But to get into the news,
I'm not gonna lie. When I pulled this article, I was like, "Ooh, it's giving what's his face in *Handmaid's Tale*, the architect of Gilead."
but who was the architect?
She made June ends up making friends with him. His face is in my mind right now. He has glasses. I can't remember his name.
And he ends up trying to be like, oh yeah, like protecting her. I did not watch the last season of Handmaid's Tale because I felt like it gave way too much armor, main character armor to June. Like she should have been dead. Some of the stuff she
Okay, thank you. If we're being realistic, June should have died. June has gone into Gilead, come out of Gilead. It's gone off the rails. But at this point, I'm committed to seeing my only white heroine that I root for on television. I'm committed to see whether or not she frees Hannah, which I don't think she is. But I have to follow
she was
through.
grimy for being the white mistress to a married black man.
She was.
Let's not forget the plot of the. And then what happened?
And that's why she became a handmaid instead of just, a regular wife.
What was the character? And deserved. I think we would all be like F-A-F-O on that one, huh? But what happened to Poussey?
June's origin is very messy.
Very. Poussey.
Poussey finally gets free. Thank God.
I think that's where they were all like in Canada and like I don't even remember Poussey's the woman Samara.
Oh, her name in
the character's name in Handmaid's Tale, and they're in Canada.
Because in Handmaid's Tale, I call her Poussey when I see her.
Exactly. And they needed to get
Orange is
more
the New
her.
Black, and her actual wife, who was one of the writers of Orange is the New Black, did her extremely wrong in killing off Poussey in that manner, and I'm still traumatized.
All right, but let's get into
seriousness.
This news, which I know is going to go everywhere because Project 2025 was a campaign messaging on the part of the Democrats about don't vote for us because we won't install Project 2025.
Have you changed your thoughts at all on how people reacted to that very last minute messaging?
No, because I still believe that Project 2025 was extraordinarily ineffective campaigning. I shut up because I did a video at the beginning of 2024 about Project 2025 is fear-mongering. Not because it won't happen, it's already happening. I say this time and time again. It's been happening at the state level for the past 2 decades. The only way that they're able to effectively do what they're doing is that state legislatures, state gubernatorial governor's houses, the governor, are Republican GOP controlled and aligning with this. Like he's from Iowa or something where they've already dismantled their education, their public education system there. This is happening in Texas. It was happening in Wisconsin until the Democrats there got it together. It's happening in North Carolina where I live.
Florida.
It's happening at the state level, which is why it's viable at the federal level. So even if we got the Democrats, this would still largely be happening at the state level. Now, would we be having the funds for Medicare and stuff cut off? No. And it's not to say that, oh, we shouldn't vote for the Democrats. It's to say that Democrats couldn't just rely on Project 2025 as the thing to campaign against without talking about how they are going to push back against the GOP's push on the state and federal level to invest in this sort of Christian white nationalist politic. But again, we keep bringing, every time we talk about this, we go back to Citizens United and the money in politics, and that is why we get the fear mongering of Project 2025 without any actual messaging about what will be done differently so that this cannot ever happen. And so that's why my mind won't change. And now we are here because he is the head of the White House Budget Office. He was confirmed along party lines, which is likely
Office of Management and Budget.
to happen for RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, who both passed their committees and now are going to the Senate. And I think it's so interesting also because of this like constant media messaging around what's the Republican lady from Maine, Susan?
I'm not sure. A representative?
No, a senator.
Maine
Susan
senators.
Collins.
Susan Collins, yes, correct.
And then there's one other white woman Republican who are always suggested as like the last of the moderate Republicans. She votes in party lines, and there's always like it's Susan Collins will speak out against the people that are nominated and still vote for them. She does not go that, like, she might once or twice step out of party lines, but she is a Republican through and through. And I'm just always amused at how much work the media will do to brand her in a positive light and make her seem like this reasonable conservative who is like a bastion of what the Republicans used to be. The Republicans have always been on this pathway since Barry Goldwater sold out to the pro-life movement.
Man.
So here we are. Here we are.
And the Democrats still don't have a plan. I think that part has to. My dad started watching this. Hey, Dad. And he was like, don't say that about the Democrats. They are trying. I'm like, and I just put him the laughing emoji. But there still is no plan. It should be noted what's also really interesting about this man. He was in that same position during Trump's first term, and he is the person who basically spearheaded and initiated that big push to reclassify over 1,000 federal workers to political appointees. So political appointees, the problem with them is they are not civil servants. So they don't know how like the government is supposed to run. Elon Musk is a good example where Elon Musk is now designated as some type of, what did Trump call him? A special government employee. But we have not voted for him. He's not an elected official, and he also has no experience with the government. That is what he pushed through as well. What Russell Voigt also pushed through during the last term. What he technically is supposed to be in charge of is the White House budget. However, what they are doing is they believe the White House should be controlling all of the other budgets, which is one, unconstitutional, because really our senators and representatives, they have the power of the purse. So they are essentially trying to get what Trump wants to do in his policy making to kind of either align with what the Republicans that are in the Senate and the House want to do. And if they don't align, they basically are just going to push through Trump's plans via the White House Office of the Budget.
They are broadly changing and dismantling the Constitution, dismantling Congress. And I think at some point they will attempt to dismantle the judicial system. It's also interesting because typically J.D. Vance is the one that does the Senate confirmations, but it's been Clarence Thomas doing quite a few of them.
Why?
I'm telling you, Citizens United,
Clarence's lack of shame needs to be studied. He has not an ounce of shame in himself.
I'm not making this up. Why is J.D. Vance so ghost in this administration overall? to swear
I
in
think that
Trump's
should alarm
candidate.
people, to be honest, because JD Vance is the person that actually has, for what it's worth, even though he appears like he doesn't have sense, he actually is the one out of two of them that does have the more sense. I think they're moving him away because towards the end of the election cycle, he had made all those very strange comments, like him in the couch and the psychiatrist. And then he made comments, he called women over 30 who don't have children, he called them cat ladies, which you then had Taylor Swift on her white feminism outrage be like, oh, signed up cat lady, which, you know, she did her what she felt like she needed to do as well. And I think they're trying to push him out of the limelight to then thrust him back in once they get everybody on the white Christian nationalist page.
This is kind of crazy. I did not know that Sean Duffy of Real World fame had 8 kids. That's a lot of kids. I
The
didn't realize
fact
they
that
were
it's Sean
natalists.
Duffy from the real world is now getting sworn in.
Secretary of Transportation. He's taking over Pete Buttigieg's position. But
Like, clearly you can live a life, but it's fascinating. Pete Hegseth also has over 6 children as well. I can't remember the exact
the
number
same
though.
woman.
Yeah, him and his wife. I believe so. It seems so in the pictures. Because Trump has multiple. Since that's always a
I
point of contention.
Oh yeah. I wanted to play this clip from Ruwa Romaine. I think she is. Well, I know she's an elected official. She is a Palestinian in the Georgia State Legislature, and she's a Georgia State Representative for House District 97. I believe that is in part Duluth, north of Atlanta, and she is a Palestinian American politician. All right. She posted this video on TikTok. As you can see, my comment is right there. Talking about her engagement with the Democrats during the election season. And if you remember, she wanted to, I don't actually quite know for sure how the DNC works with speeches, but she was
Mhm.
blocked out specifically from
Oh
speaking at the
yes.
DNC.
Hmm.
I don't know if you can speed it up on the desktop. I know Stephanie is of
Oh,
the belief that it has to be.
sped up. We don't have to speed it up, but just for a point of clarification, thank y'all. Apparently Hegseth, no, from Be Goodwin, no, Hegseth has a baby with another woman as well. Thank you. He also has. Also, just important to state because when the complexion is different, then people act a big fool about it. But it should be noted, Trump has been married two, three times. No, 3 times, and I think has children with all three,
He has 4 baby moms.
four, 3 or 4 different.
He has
And again,
Ivanka. He has the last one. Who's Tiffany's mom?
Melania. One was an actress. I can't remember her name. They weren't married very long.
There got to be some kids floating around. I don't believe that. That
And
man
plus
does
the
not keep it in his
unaccounted for.
pants.
Yes.
All right, but this is a 9 minute
Oh, yes.
video, so I'm gonna try and scroll through here because I think this is an important part to the conversation about people attempting to use Trump's talking points about turning Gaza into a Riviera and pushing all the Palestinians out of Gaza. That this is like a fuck around and find out moment for Arab Americans, largely because people misunderstood what were the actual Arab American movements happening at the Democrat level, what they were trying to do with the Democrats, like the uncommitted movement that said not to vote for Biden in the primaries. I did not vote for Biden in the primaries. I thought that was a very good push to get the current sitting president, who is sending and funding Israel's genocide against the Palestinians, to understand that this is a big issue. And the Democrats, the establishment, turn this down. And if you are like me, a fan of Ested Hurdin's The Run Up podcast for the New York Times, I think even if you go back to like December, January, the beginning, definitely at the beginning of 2024, there are like 3 or 4 episodes he does where he's talking, he's going to conventions, he's talking to Biden's campaign in Wilmington, Delaware. He was talking to the head of the DNC, and then he talks to people from the Arab American community, one being the mayor of Dearborn, and trying to like address like where Gaza fits into this campaign. The people from Biden's team just flat out, like, you can hear it on audio, flat out dismissive
Mm-hmm.
that foreign policy is not an issue during presidential elections. People do not care about foreign policy historically. So I probably should have timestamped
I don't really know
this.
how to start this, and I don't really know how to finish it. Who else joined the coalition afterwards? Uncommitted. If you read the memo, there's literally a memo that was drafted in December of 2023. It was a movement by Democrats for Democrats, specifically for the Democratic primary. It was never meant to be a spoiler movement. Anybody who, abandoned Biden/Harris is a very, very different thing. And just because they were mad that Uncommitted wasn't supporting a third party or whatever it is they wanted to do does not change the fact that it is literally in writing what Uncommitted was. You can go find the memo yourself. And the reason it was focused on primaries is because we all knew the dangers of a Trump presidency. And the reason we did it the way we did it is because no matter who we spoke to, and I'm saying we, I'm talking about Arab leaders, Muslim leaders, uncommitted leaders, every leader you can think of, no matter who spoke to the party, and I'm talking about the DNC in this case, no matter who spoke to the White House on the official side, no matter who spoke to anybody, we kept being told a few things. One, people will forget come November. Two, the constituency of people that care about this was not enough to matter. And I think there is some merit to that, but I need you all to understand that it was Gaza and it wasn't Gaza. And what I mean by that is that the coalition on Gaza was a multi-faith, multi-racial, multi-generational coalition that encompassed everybody. But in particular, it included people who were the most involved in politics as well. And it's those people that would normally be donating and fundraising and volunteering and knocking doors and doing all the things that we needed to do to win, because we need to convince people our biggest challenge is always the couch. When it comes to Democratic candidates, our biggest issue isn't actually the other candidate, it is the couch. And the best way to beat Democrats is to convince enough of them not to vote. And this was a legitimate reason. I want to be clear, just because, and I've said this all year long, just because I was willing to support Harris in spite of everything that was happening, because I knew she would have a new policy team. I knew that it would not be the same people we were working with under Biden. I knew that there would at least be some change that was better than Biden and definitely not worse than Trump, or at least it wouldn't be what Trump would be. But just because I did that did not mean that the campaign did what they were supposed to. And I want to be clear. We gave the campaign lists of names of leaders and organizations to meet with. We gave the campaign guidance on everything and anything you can think of. I personally, multiple times, sent sample language to the campaign that would have at least helped them reach these voters in a way that would not have hurt the campaign, but in a way that would have helped their efforts. Because I knew that getting a new policy team that wasn't Trump's policy team actually gave us a chance to protect and save more people. And in response, and I'm talking about this was happening before the DNC and this happened after the DNC. And in response to that, we had campaign leadership, specifically Biden's people, step in at every juncture and shut us down. So you cannot blame a group of people who you all told you did not need their votes. And I want to be clear, I blame everybody. I blame the campaign, I blame Democrats, I blame voters, I blame everybody. I don't actually think it's tenable or legitimate to say that us as voters don't hold any responsibility. And I don't think it's legitimate, and I actually find it absurd to say that candidates, like myself as well, don't have responsibility. It is untenable. This thing is a group project whether we like it or not. And we all have a responsibility, some more than others. I think that there are people who were not honest about the dangers of Trump. That's just the sad truth. And a lot of them rode that wave and called the rest of us traitors and worse, because we dared to point out that, hey, things do and can get worse. And
Okay. I thought that was you can pull up her TikTok. At this point, it's the second video, or it might be the first video on her account. Her government name, and she's a state legislature from Georgia. But I thought this was, this was what I be listening to Stan Hurd, and he covered this. He was talking about the entire campaign time that Arab. As a matter of fact, he has an episode where he is interviewing the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, who is I want to say at least half Palestinian, and they were upset because they reached out to the Biden campaign. This is the beginning of 2024, and not they didn't reach out to the Biden campaign. They reached out to the Biden administration and were said campaign people. they reached out to the Biden administration about the Palestinian conflict, about the genocide, and were sent campaign people.
Can you imagine you're murdering off people's family members, and instead of being like, let me hear your concern, valid concern, here's campaign people because I need you to do something for me. It's objectively obscene and it's objectively wild.
And to say, my mic cuts in and out because I have to be right up on it. But yeah, it's just crazy that this particular group of people are being blamed for Kamala Harris's loss. And I think it's largely because there are certain creators who engaged in very bombastic, racist, just antagonistic language throughout the year. People love outrage, and a lot of people engaged in the outrage cycle around this particular topic. And people want to blame them for the loss of Kamala Harris's presidential election, but
that's not mathematically correct. I just want to read the population stats one more time because I need people to get offline and to start reading back the encyclopedia and books. Michigan has the highest number and percentage of Arab Americans according to World Population Review, with approximately 211,000 just in Michigan Arab Americans. Mind you, this is the largest population in any state. That's 2.1% of people. So why you would fix yourself to blame 2.1% of people in one state versus pointing your finger at the glaring elephant in the room, which is collective whiteness, is flabbergasting. It's just flabbergasting to me.
And also,
and I think
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think until like this has to get hashed out within the first and second quarter of this year, because in 2 years we have another election cycle. And unless like this gets flushed out in Q1 and Q2 of this year, and we actually push the Dems to be something above wuckless or have a new party, in 2 years, we are going to get completely cemented into all of these Trump policies and Elon Musk agenda, I guess, is like the kindest way to put all the illegal things that he's doing.
I think it's also crazy because Kamala just didn't lose the election. The Democrats lost Congress. They lost the House and the Senate. And the House race only happens in your particular district. And almost every seat up for election this year? So,
yes,
like,
it was.
We're blaming the Arab Americans that are largely situated between Michigan, LA, Maryland, and New York for an entire, like 200
like, what about you,
something seats. Or the
Exactly.
Senate, they're up by 4. Like, how do you then explain that Trump winning the popular vote, the electoral college, the Republican senators winning, and the Republican House representatives all winning to take over each level of government and blame that all on Palestinians?
It's so nonsensical. It's so nonsensical. And I think subconsciously and consciously people protect whiteness even when they're outraged at something else, because the people going online and chastising stupidly, in my opinion, Palestinians and Arab Americans, I'm like, you have all of this animosity towards a set of people that you don't know and that factually doesn't make sense. Why don't you have that same animosity for your neighbor that you know is a bumbling fool?
And I do think at this point, the thing we have to do is log offline, look at the communities that we are a part of and live in, and activate within those communities on a micro level. I thought it was I saw where was I at? And somebody talked about, I was like, looking at farming content because I need to plant my seeds. I need to sprout them. And somebody was like, you should look up your county extension office because somebody was talking about, if you want to do a neighborhood garden. And I was like, that is something I've been thinking about. I live in West Charlotte. We lack a good bit of infrastructure. I think it would be cool in my neighborhood if one of these open plots could be turned into a neighborhood garden. And someone said, you reach out to your county extension office. And I did not know that terminology. And it's funny because my dad had come to my house. He's like, you need to get your soil tested. And he's like, you do that with the county. But he didn't tell me the county office. And so it is, in fact, so in North Carolina, here's where I am. your cooperative extension county. I live in Mecklenburg County, but I'm going to reach out to them next week. It's on my to-do
I've
list to
never
find
heard this
out
terminology
about,
either.
about the neighborhood gardening options. And if you've been thinking about things like how to start your own co-op or how to do things that like allow you to build community, even if it's just 4, 5, 6, 10 people, starting in these areas is a great way to learn. Like, if so many of us have read Parable of the Sower, you also realize in that book Octavia Butler talks a lot just about very micro community building in order to sustain livelihood. So,
We have to go
anyhow,
back to basics.
yeah,
You know what?
it's on my to-do
As
list.
TikTok was banned for 24 hours, and while I don't agree with the ban, like I don't, Elon Musk is stealing our information in our face. However, maybe less social media would be good for people a little bit.
People are saying the live is cutting off so bad. I can't really do anything about it while we're on live. If I go back and watch it and I think it is really bad, all this saves on my end natively to my computer, so we can re-upload this entire stream without the breaks. You know what I mean? I could re-upload it as a video, and that'll get rid of the breaks if you want to come back and watch it. Because I looked at our bandwidth and it's fine. So I don't know what's happening today.
Or you might have to refresh your screen.
It really might be our it really might be the internet today, and I don't know.
Yeah. Mine allegedly, according to this, has all the bars today.
Somebody says it's better on Twitch. Okay.
Well, we need y'all to watch on Twitch anyway.
Okay.
It's free.
Get on the Twitch. Here we go. Yeah, find us on Twitch or exiting out and coming back. I don't know. My websites are taking longer to load. I've been trying to buy something on Sephora all morning long and have not been able to. So I'm not going to say it's not my service or our stream acting up. I don't know. But we do go back and watch the replay, so we'll see, and we'll upload this natively if that helps. All right, we're gonna close out here because I know the weekend's gonna be crazy. This man likes to work on the weekend.
The Verge.
But what is Elon Musk overall goal? What do we think he's really up to? And I have a thought.
Say your thought, because I have a thought, and it's probably less put together. Say your thought.
I think Elon Musk is trying to transform the government's technology and technology systems so that they are indebted to him and cannot navigate or do anything without buying into his systems. So even once Trump leaves office, the U.S. government, whatever exists of it after this term, will always have to have contracts with Elon Musk and his cronies, because he has a cloud software guy doing this with him. Everyone's right now, the focus is on the young engineers that are sleeping in the office doing the work. But he has a team that also has clearances that include other billionaires with technology companies. And they are going to transform the technology that the U.S. government uses and therefore other systems. I think it'd be interesting if they can get the banking system to buy into their software. And so he will always, for the rest of his life, have these high value billion-dollar contracts, because changing software is extraordinarily complicated and expensive. When I worked at Bank of America in the graphic design department, this was 2017. We were using Microsoft Explorer 5.
Oh. The banks be slow.
It's very but the government is the same way. When you start getting into these very difficult payment systems or complicated, high privacy issue payment systems, they often are built on very antiquated technology, because new technology requires all these security things to be caught up to it, and they can't keep up with the speed of technology development and then the holes in hacking that allows. And so they are probably still somewhere around Explorer 5. Like they are, I promise you, the U.S. Treasury Department is not using Chrome to do their services. They might be using Firefox, and they are using a very antiquated system to process this, and Elon is going to use this sort of rhetoric to say he's upgrading and updating and streamlining and getting rid of all the bureaucracy and all the waste. But what he's doing is putting them in his back pocket and buttoning up his pocket.
I think it's interesting, and I agree somewhat, but am curious and have been curious as to what is Bezos doing. Like, why Bezos has been very oddly quiet for a man who in the past 2 years has decided that he wants to be a celebrity. He was on the cover of Vogue with his fiance. His fiance, she was married to the president of UTA, United Talent Agency, so she has an entertainment background. It was very interesting choices. He wanted to be seen at Renaissance, etc. A lot of the government infrastructure, so like my channel is mostly like legal pop culture reviews, so that requires a lot of research and into like the government databases. So Pacer is the federal court system database. You can pull up any lawsuit that's in the federal court system.
Also very antiquated.
Super trial. The thing is barely running. It runs better though, I will say, than the regular like state court systems. Those websites, oh my gosh. I have accounts with like most of them, but those websites are super old. So I was curious and like did a few searches. I was like, wait, who is the current cloud system that most of these government agencies are using?
AWS.
And it's AWS, Amazon Web Service, and then GCP, Google Cloud Platform. It's in between two. And Google is a very large government contractor. And I think this will be the one time where we'll see the billionaires fighting with each other. I don't think Amazon and specifically Bezos is going to let Elon just take all of his business. Elon Musk and all of his various companies, he's a huge government contractor himself. Ironically, because like, what exactly is he doing besides Starlink? Like, you're a government contractor for SpaceX. Like, what exactly is the government contract? I think he's going to try
to build the technology, right? Because AWS is like the server, right? So you have these cloud repositories where you can host, but you still need a software developer to build out the actions of the database and how to access that database.
That's on top, yeah.
And like the UI UX, and I think that's the space where he's coming in, and I think technically they could all be in cahoots to get that done.
They might be, which I think is going to be really interesting because Google this week just deprecated all their DEI programs. They said they are not doing their DEI hiring goals. They're like, oh, we're done with it, etc. And they cited as one of the reasons was, well, we're a federal contractor, so we need to comply with these new rules because they are a federal contractor, which is very interesting. So I'm curious to see how they all play together. I'm
interested because I'm in a cohort with Google. That's through their civil rights office.
Because Google has the infrastructure, they have all of that. So I'm like, what about the civil rights office? They have a whole public policy team. They have like government policy teams. Like Google has the infrastructure for like fascinating levels of research. If you ever like get a chance to peek into corporate over there. I think his end goal is like, he's an obscenely greedy person. As we've seen, like, I don't think we've seen this, him and Bezos, but I don't think we've seen this level of greed in many generations. Because a friend pointed out to me that the new billionaires are so interesting in that they're very self-absorbed. Like all billionaires, the only way you got all this money is because you are comfortable with stealing and doing XYZ amount of theft, harm to others. However, the billionaires of the industrial age in the US, they very much cared what people thought about them. So while Carnegie was doing all these awful things, we have Carnegie Hall, we have schools, we have Carnegie Mellon University. These billionaires, there's not so much as a library in their name. And so I think
they fund the revolution.
The revolution to make everything white, like which maybe that's what it is.
They all have philanthropic funds that go to other nonprofits because now we have during Rockefeller there wasn't like an NGO complex system, and so they'll say, okay, you got a library out of Rockefeller, but I funded all these NGOs across the like Gates Foundation, all these.
Oh, the Gates
and
Foundation.
They're agitating, you know what I mean? But it's like the nonprofit complex actually agitates issues to make these people more money. I don't know. Do I want Bezos building libraries?
No, I'm not saying that. Well, no, actually, you're getting all this tax-free money. You need to build something because people need to read. But it is interesting the way that they're going about it. I think that they, particularly Elon Musk, him being from South Africa and him very much believing in like he has a very megalomaniac theory that somehow white people are on the decline. Everyone is out to get white people. So I think he's greedy. So that's why he's doing all this. But also he is now fighting with South Africa because South Africa is trying to implement a land back system. And he has basically been on the rampage saying it's anti-white, which what the hell? That doesn't even make any logical sense. You could just get out the people damn country. That's not my business. So I think part of his is this ideological theory of like, okay, well, how do we make white men great again? I think that's part of like what he ideally wants to do, which is a problem. Never forget that Jeff Bezos started with his nefarious plan of owning a online bookstore to just get rid of Barnes and Nobles. And then turned into this.
But like at least Book Talk, even with their issues, came back and saved Barnes and Nobles, who's opening more brick and mortar stores right now. So there's ways to beat back. There's ways to beat back at these billionaires. And I think for each of us, it is logging offline, shopping less, even if you end up, I don't know if it's possible right now, because I was like the other day, like, oh, I need to get deodorant. And I'm like, where do I go? Okay, if I'm not going to Target, if I'm not going to Walmart, maybe I can go to Walgreens or CVS, but their pharmacy programs are also ruining the medical care complex. So like, there's no ethical consumption at this point. But I think rather than stressing myself out about where I'm getting my things from, is buying less. You know what I mean? Not feeding into consumerism more. And maybe I will ultimately just go to, I use like natural deodorant. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to, Whole Foods is owned by Jeff Bezos. Like, do I gotta buy 20 packs of Degree from Costco? For deodorant, I don't know. Maybe I'll start making it. I'm not going to make it. I don't have the time. But I will just buy what I need and stop the like hyper consumption that so many of us fed into, especially during the pandemic, of constantly buying copious amounts of products.
And I think it's more than 60%, less than 70% of the US GDP, our gross domestic product, is based solely on US American spending. So regular people buying things is propping up these billionaires. So we spend less, they, get hit in the pockets. So overall, I think it's good. And then also trying to find, it's sad because it takes money to do the ethical thing, but when you can, to try to find products that don't cause so much harm. Yeah. The baby steps of it all. I think that's better than just like throwing the hands in the air, Because then we're just going to be here with our hands in the air and the phone in the hand.
All right. Well, guys, for next week, we will see you on Monday and Thursday.
We're switching. We had to hit a goal with Twitch, and we hit it. So
we hit the
we'll
goal.
Do more visual.
Thank you for all your support. If you are here, if you made it this far in the video, look at us. We had 100 live viewers. Thank y'all.
Appreciate y'all. You
make it worth it. We love y'all for real. But if you are here, smash that subscribe button.
Every time you do this, I'm just like, oh, I forgot you could do this.
It's so cringe, isn't it?
No, it's subscribe. I just look around. I'm like, oh, where's the Mr. Clean in the room? I'm like, oh, it's just you fooling around.
If it got Mr. Beast to being like the biggest YouTuber, can it help us out too?
We should do a video on him. That Jimmy Donaldson is something. And I mean that negatively. I appreciate y'all.
Oop. Somebody got to get blocked in the live chat.
Quickly.
Ban.
Not the white supremacist calling you an immigrant as a pejorative when you're not an immigrant.
Why even engage with it? Why even engage with it? Okay. Thank y'all. We'll see you next week, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday and Thursday. Bye.
Bye, everyone.